on foxtrapradio.com. We welcome you here today to have an open discussion again about sex trafficking in our communities and what survivor leaders are doing to make a difference in their community, but also what normal people can do to make a difference in their community. Once again, we welcome you on a journey to learn about sex trafficking. We hope we can engage you, inspire you, and mostly just motivate you to do something, whatever it may be in your community, to make a difference. I am the founder of For Sarah, and we are a survivor-led organization. And today we are excited to have our guest on our that's going to be a call-in today, that's going to be sharing his heart and his vision. And we are just thankful. You know, we have a lot of women here. My co-hosts, Heidi and Sayuri, are with me today. And we are just excited about the guest that we're going to have today that's going to share his heart and his vision and his passion for change in his community and what he's doing to make a difference. And we're going to bring him on after this break.
Look forward to it.
I can't wait. But don't forget that you can call in today too if you have any questions at 770-703-5494. Or you can just listen live on foxtrapradio.com and just tune in for the show. We'll be right back. All right.
Audio out, visual out. So when you come back in, you go ahead and go straight into your interview, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. King, can you hear me?
I can. It's still the same, but we can rock like this. No, you can hear me good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce, I'm going to share a little bit of your bio, and then from there, let you just have the open mic. And if we'll try not to cut you off, but if we do, we apologize. We're just trying to stay in tune, and then we'll go to a break and bring you back on.
Yeah, you might have to shut me up, depending on the question. You talk over here.
It's okay. We're all talkative over here.
Yes. We all love it.
I've been listening to, I got your book and I've been listening to your podcast. So I was listening to it on the way here too. So.
And that's Heidi. That's Heidi that's talking.
I'm sorry, it blanked out for a second. You said you listened to the podcast on the way there?
Yeah, I've been listening to it for a couple of days. It's really, really good. I listened to some of the episodes and I was like, these are conversations that the three of us have all the time. So it was just like so refreshing. I was like, oh my God, there's other people that are having these same conversations.
For real, that's why we did that podcast. A lot of people say that because we just hear the rhetoric that's put out at these conventions and these things that people that have no lived experience
Correct.
That are putting out, and they're not talking the real from the people that are really in these streets that are living these experiences that are going through this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just can't tell you. I mean, I'm super excited because it just feels like, yes, it's going to be a really well-flowing conversation because we have these conversations all the time. And I know when I do training, I'm constantly trying to bust myths.
Right. Same here.
I was like, please stop showing people
30
in
seconds.
chains.
Mr. King, are you on your cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Are you on a cell phone?
Do they make other kind of phones?
Okay, so that's your phone. Okay, let's go.
That ain't my phone. I don't say every day. I don't even have another device.
It's all right. We can hear you.
I can hear you.
It's that iPhone 12X Pro. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
That's the expensive phone.
Wait, am I the only one in the room that still has a house phone?
Yes. Bring the
Yes.
audience in. All eyes on the camera. Going in at 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to Pass. And once again, I'm with Sayuri.
Hey, girl.
Hey.
Sayuri Smith. What's up?
Hey, and Heidi.
And today we are going to be interviewing Armand King. And he's on the call, but I'm going to give you a little brief bio about his passion and what he's doing. He is the co-founder of the nonprofit Paving Great Futures and author of Raised in Pimp City. King guides others out of the prison pipeline, criminal activity, and domestic human sex trafficking. Armand's duties with Paving Great Futures includes creating and implementing new programs serving current and former gang members, criminal justice involved individuals, and high-risk youth. Welcome to the show, Armand. We're excited that you're here, and we just ask you to please share your passion and what got you into this movement.
Man, I don't know. Shoot. It really did. Honestly, this came from I was old enough to live to just get tired of seeing the same cycle of death and incarceration continue in my community. I've lost, out of 8 of my best friends, I'm one of 4 that's still alive. Almost all of my friends have been murdered, family members murdered, cousins murdered. One of my friends died of an overdose. 2017, I lost the last of my 2 friends that were still stuck in the game, still out there pimping. One was shot in the head on the track in Houston by a female pimp, and it's within 60 days, another friend that was still lost, stuck in the game. He overdosed. Thought he was sniffing cocaine, but it was had fentanyl in it. That's killing our folks out here in San Diego really rapidly right now. So be careful. People think they're just partying off coke, and they're dying left and right.
That is so true. We just lost one of our ladies as well due to that. So I completely understand
it's a
the
major problem right now. Cocaine used to be a thing. People didn't want to do coke, and then about maybe 10 years now became popular and cool for kids and for generation to do it. And now in the past 3 years, fentanyl has been popping up left and right in the coke and in the pills and the perks and all the party drugs that people are doing. And we've been losing some major figures out here in San Diego, young ones, with survivors, every people in the game, just period.
Yeah,
that's what got me in. Is just tired of seeing it happen, seeing this death. And one day I got surrounded by a group of about 30 young men that reminded me of myself and my friends. These were young men that were following in my footsteps when I was in the street life. They were looking up to me doing all the wrong things. Young men that I didn't realize even existed or knew that I existed. They were the kids of they were the little brothers of the girls we were dating, the cousins of my friends. They were the people in the neighborhood, and we don't realize how much influence we have over the youth. Because we're youth. I was 17, 18, 19 years old. I don't think this 10-year-old, this 9-year-old in the community is looking up to me as their father figure. But now as I realize and look back, it only makes sense because, out of my 8 best friends I talked about, like not one of us had a dad in the household. Wow. Not one of us had a father to look up to. Our fathers, we had to be each other's father, mentor, teacher, show each other the life, show each other how to be men. And how could a 15-year-old teach another 15-year-old how to be a man? You do not know how to be a man. So we were misguided from men. But now these little kids were following us just like we followed the people before us. And they were gang members and drug dealers from our generation. That's who we looked up to. But when we broke into this, the pimping and prostitution epidemic really blew up back in the mid-90s. Not now. Not now that all this awareness is going on. This took place many years ago when no one cared. When law enforcement didn't care, when society didn't care, but for whatever reason they care now.
Well, we started selling white
I'm asking myself these days, but do they really care now? What was the purpose of all this awareness? Because here I am in this anti-human sex trafficking movement, so-called, for the past 4 to 5 years, and I ain't seen nothing change. We're asking the same questions today that they was asking 5 years ago. Where are the gaps? What's missing? Man, I've been around lived experience survivors for the past 5 years that have told y'all what the gaps were. Told you how to fix this. And yet we're still asking the same questions. This is what is going on. I'm so tired. I'm not even claiming this movement. Even if the word movement means something moved. It means something
and nothing's changed, right?
Nothing moving and nothing going. It's the same pendulum has not taken us anywhere.
Do you feel, Armand, that
I'm tired of it, honestly. So that's why I don't do. I promise. Unless somebody's paying me, I will speak. I will do that for a fee right now. But if going and just talking to groups of people who really just get entertained, like this is a good show. They clap, they cheer, they cry, like going to a good movie or a good concert and go back to business as usual. I'm okay with that. There's lives out here that need my energy. Energy and time is limited. But we're blessed with the people on this earth is limited. So where are we applying ours? And I'm good off just doing did that many times, so thousands of people, many consultations. This rich white women group, that rich white women group that just wanted to hear about how their daughters could get kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted to hear that stuff. Sorry.
They don't want to hear that. They don't. I agree with you. Right. They don't want to hear the truth. A lot of people, when I listen to your podcast, I've been hooked, and it's good.
Will you share the podcast information real quick? So people know the listeners can go to it.
Raised in Pimp City. I'm personally listening to it on Spotify because that's like my jam. But like Armand, I'm sure you could tell them all the different places that they can listen to it. But I have really enjoyed it because in our circle that is survivor led, everything that I'm hearing you talk about are conversations that we've had, but then I'm also finding personal growth. And one of the things that I really appreciate when I hear you talk is like, I don't know everything, right? Like, I don't know everything. This isn't my specialty. This is my story. This is my journey. This is what I'm around and this is what I'm seeing. And I think how we make the movement different and how we make change different is continue to listen, to continue to educate ourselves. Quit acting like we know everything.
Yeah,
right.
I'm gonna tell you something. I learned something from the podcast too. And Armand, I really want you to explain this when we come back at some point.
Right.
When we take a break. Because you said that there was a difference between a trafficker and a pimp.
Absolutely.
And good. And that right there, the very basic definitions is what we need to educate. A lot of times we get these broad brush, ideas of what the game is. And somebody who has been in it, you are a person that can educate everybody on what it is. And because this is Sayuri, we Facebook friends, right? So I know a little bit about your story, but when I listened to the podcast, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about today. And I felt like that was a very good point for you to explain because
the difference.
A lot of people are not understanding what the difference is.
Of a trafficker and a pimp. And what's crazy is literally like you suck the thoughts out of my brain. I was like, as soon as I get the chance, I'm going to say, hey, we're trying to educate people here.
Yeah.
Will you explain from your perspective, your point of view, being from the life, the difference between a pimp and a trafficker?
Yeah.
And
then, you know what? I just want to tell you that I really appreciate the fact that you give women a voice on your platform and that you are reaching out to actual women who are still struggling and in transition. Yep. And I just thank you for all of the work that you're doing. And I'm very grateful to God that you are being obedient and doing what it is that He is having you do right now.
And Armand, too, I want to piggyback off of before we go to a break and come back and continue the conversation. You did talk about there's no real change. And that is true because we can still go to the same areas that we were talking about 15 years ago that was known for prostitution and exploitation and minors being trafficked. And it's still not any better. It's actually gotten worse. So
they don't want it because the society we gotta have a deeper understanding and that the human sex trafficking is at the very foundation of this country. This country is
human trafficking.
It's always been here. It's not new. The same exact clientele is the same exact from the beginning. It's the same clientele right now. They don't want it to end.
Correct.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, this is a smoke screen that's been going on these past 4 or 5 years of human sex trafficking awareness. Right. What is the real purpose? I don't have time to dig into it. This is above my pay grade. I just want to help my folks not see that as a viable option for their life.
Right.
That's where my fight is. Yeah, they know. So I don't know if you want to wait after the break, but I'll break down this pimp and trafficker, what that means.
Let's.
Going in
Look, Armand, we're gonna take a break. We take a break.
Do we have time?
He's probably got a long conversation about that. Let's take a break and we'll come back and continue that conversation.
Okay, that's not the plan.
You're listening to Pass. That's good, Armand.
Armand, I was going to tell you, and you tell me if we'll have time and test it out. But one of the things that I would love to be able to get to is in the podcast you said, and this is once again a conversation we've been having independently, you said if we don't get to the root of the problem, if we don't talk about, the systems of racism and poverty, if we don't talk about that, we're just screwing on a top to bottle cap. You had the crack epidemic, and then you had the gangs, and then you had this.
and they don't have any other means to make money, and I have my body, and I know somebody will pay for it. Why wouldn't I do it?
Right. And it was so good. And, I hope we get to continue this relationship and foster this relationship as other survivor-led stuff, because, I've been working independently on doing a lot of prevention and training, and I incorporated a whole section on blaming the American dream. Right. Where the American dream has to take its accountability and what's going on here. That we equate money and success to, a value of trust and trying to get out of these things and the deeper issues that you're talking about. So I was just over there like grinning from ear to end, like, yes, let's have these deeper conversations, because we're just going to continue to have one thing after the other if we don't tackle the root of these problems. Yeah. And especially poverty.
And you're right. Somebody, one of you guys spoke on me having women on my podcast, and so for me, in particular in my community, that's like a lot of communities. I know this. I've traveled through this country. I've been through Atlanta. I know what it's like. We're not separate. A lot of people are separating us. Like, here's survivors over here. Here's the monster demon trafficker over there. But I'm like, these are our homegirls. Before this movement, we grew out of this together. My organization, it's two of us, it's 3 men that started it. 2 of us are former pimps. And then our staff, we have 7 people. We have 2 survivors in here. One is the first girl I ever was in the game with, or seen in the game with my brother. She was in the game for 20 years. White girl, blonde girl, blue eyes, from a middle class community, never abused. Both mother and father was extra spoiled, but she was attracted to the hip hop street life. And another sister that was in here, black woman, was in the game for 14 years. These are my partners. These are my old girls. So we don't look at each other no different. We're like, we survived the game. You know what I mean? The urban, we just put titles on stuff, but we were in the game together. My homegirls, these people you get on my podcast, other than the ones I just met, are my homegirls. Right. Live in the same, we went to school together. We got the same hood. It wasn't like, I can't be kidnapped this girl. No, we needed a way out of no way. Right. We were trying to make a way out of poverty.
Exactly. I mean,
together.
Right.
It wasn't no different. My homegirls and with me. So it's like, nah, we just.
So we actually get ready to go back in.
Okay, hold on. Armand, we're going live again.
We just chose our role, and that just so happened to be the role. The man was the pimp, the girl was the prostitute.
All right, Armand, we're about to go back in. All right, we're going to continue that conversation.
What I'm having you
hold that thought about the pimp and the difference between pimp and trafficker. So you want me to do that? Because I was going to let her open it in.
What you have to start doing is stepping up and talking. Heidi's talking too much. You know what I mean? Sayuri is coming in just a little bit, and we got to hear your voice.
Okay.
You feel me?
Okay.
So you guys can balance it out.
Okay. Because I feel like I was talking. Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes,
Going
ma'am.
live in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to PASS, People Against Sex Trafficking. So you were talking about earlier, we were talking about the pimp and the trafficker, the difference. And you were talking to Armand about defining that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, the difference, when you got to look at it, people create labels, people create terms to better communicate, to describe, to put people in certain boxes. So, from my understanding, maybe not Webster's definition or the dictionary's definition of the difference between a pimp and a trafficker, but from my definition, from my personal experiences, when we were in the game, me and my friends, we were in the game, we had no idea about this term trafficker. It was pimping and prostitution, pimping and hoeing, Mac, pimp, prostitute, hoe. Those were the names we knew and what we were doing. There was a certain rules of conduct that we learned from the 70s pimp game, from those old, the stereotypical Bishop Don Juan, you name them. We learned those rules from watching Pimp Up, Hold Down, American Pimp. We soaked up that information and we ran with that. And, by choice, not force, not just putting people on drugs, not pimping on minors. There were certain things that we conducted, for crazy people. Like there's crazy people in every profession. You have people that were sick, that would do drugs, that had the people on drugs. But that to us, you were a pimp. If you had to mix and mingle such things, you were a quote unquote pimp. No, there was not no formal definition of this. This is just the way our mentality is, the way it works. Yes, there was men back in my day that had a minor, but if we should have known about it, we wouldn't be around us. You might have got your ass beat.
All right, so Armand, let me ask you this. Armand, let me ask you this question. So
if you would have asked me in the late '90s, early 2000s, they said, "Are you a trafficker, or do you hang around traffickers?"
You would not have used that term.
Hell no.
Right,
if you
right.
would have asked me what that definition was, I would have thought that was somebody taking foreigners from across the seas and tankers and tying up, Eastern European women and Asian girls in cages. That sounds like trafficking.
Right. Now, Armand, let me ask you a question, Armand. Now, question is, when we first started For Sarah, I used to go around telling people, oh, I want to help strippers and prostitutes, and they kind of shunned you, like, oh, you just want to help that population. But as soon as you put the term sex trafficking,
they want to help.
Everybody wants to help, right?
We're a sexy world. Sex sales, violence sales to people. This world. If you pimping, the word pimp even became an easy pill to swallow. You have pimp my ride. Money pimp. Pimp became easy. You got white boys in the suburbs that you could date more than one girl at the same time. Oh, you're a pimp. Pimp was not it became a not bad word. If you call somebody a trafficker, it hits your gut a little bit different. You call somebody a human sex trafficker, it hits a little bit different. You say a gang member, human sex trafficker with minors, oh my God, kill that person.
Right.
That person doesn't even get a second look. So these things, it's sales. This is all about, we're in a capitalistic society. All these things matter. We're in a criminalizing society. We're a prison, masters of prison industrial complex. We need that terminology to lock people up. Pimping and pandering didn't matter anymore. You couldn't really give nobody 30 years, 40 years, 50 years like you are doing right now.
Right.
They're attempted human sex trafficking. I actually work in the federal court system as an expert, human sex trafficking expert. I deal with cases of people who just attempted to do the act and never even had nobody. I got a case in Sacramento of a young man who was girl. They worked together next door neighbors. They don't have to go. Like, girl, tell police, he's my best friend. I live with him. He don't have me. They don't need that. A videotape to make this, and all they have to do is put the human sex trafficking label on this guy now.
Okay.
Armand. Now you're facing life. Now you're facing 20 years.
Armand.
So that terminology, it puts emphasis on it. Like even with us, like you came out, you talking about strippers and prostitutes. Oh, that population.
Yeah.
There's a different idea that comes in people's heads. When you say human sex trafficking victim, don't Google image the word human sex trafficking.
Armand.
Google that, you're going to see a bunch of 12-year-old white girls with X's on their eyes, bruised up, with dark hands on their mouth.
Right, exactly.
Tied up, crying, sad.
Right.
You got every rich white woman's daughter right there.
Right.
You hit people's pockets, the soul a little bit different with that terminology.
You're absolutely right.
Not taking nothing away from the people really going through those type of situations, because that does exist.
Armand.
It's a sick world. Nothing taken away from it. But I'm just pointing out these different nuances that are going on, and it's a game being played on all of us. Meanwhile, the people that need the help aren't getting it.
No,
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Armand, so I want to piggyback because, listening to your podcast and you're talking about this, I think this is a good opportunity and to bring it up, because you have a lot of valid points of, what pimping is. And then we threw this label on it of trafficking and stuff like that. And that pimping back in the day had a code of ethics.
You're not condoning pimping at all.
Right. No. I know you're not. Like, crystal clear that you, that you are not condoning it.
They're not okay. These were birthed out of poverty.
Right, absolutely.
They have no options or resources to do nothing better with themselves and no belief in themselves.
Absolutely.
This American pie while they're out here selling for the American club.
Right.
Growing up in poverty.
Right.
Oh, now, there's no kid wakes up at 10 years old and raises his hand and says, I want to be a pimp when I grow up.
No.
They're animal scientists.
Right.
My brother recipes wanted to be an accountant.
Right.
These things transpire for this young man out here, too.
Right.
And then even worse, you think you can only do three things. Before you get into the legal life, a sports good. And then you got the women out there who haven't even that sports is out of the question.
Right.
They're not thinking about sports. They have even less options.
Right.
What options do they have? As they get older, now they got to feed their faith.
Right.
So what options do they have? You know what I mean? And you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer. I saw the Cosby Show growing up.
Listen, Armand, I don't want to cut you off. Armand, you can't hear me. I don't want to cut you off, but we have to go to break. And really quick, when we come back though, I want to point out, because you were saying that pimping is wrong, and I've heard your podcast, and I understand that you're saying that, but I want to be able to point out the code of ethics that you were talking about, and the fact that there is a major difference, because one of the things between pimping and we'll come back. It's too long-winded. What I was going to tell you, we're off the air. What I wanted to be able to dive into is
audio out, visual out. Heidi, back up and let Casey say some stuff.
I haven't said anything on air.
What did you say?
I've been trying.
You've been
He
trying.
can't hear us.
He can't hear us.
You're going to have to be able to do some more talking too. You're going to have to just tell Mr. King, listen, we're going to break.
Okay.
We can all hear you guys. We hear you.
So
and I'm listening to the radio and I can hear y'all saying go to break. Okay, so the next questions is, ask him the questions you want to ask him right now so he can answer.
The question I want to ask
you feel me?
since apparently I know what I'm talking about. Is
Armand. Okay, so when you're talking, give a pause so that you can hear, because we're trying to reach out to you and interject. So just pause, like after you say a few things, just kind of pause a little bit, because we were trying to like say stuff, but you couldn't hear us. I'm sorry, it's okay. We're trying to work with you.
You got 2 more questions to ask him and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Every interviewing.
Yeah.
Honey, what you have to understand is, although you're talking to Casey, this is over here is your producer of this particular show.
I'm trying to ask her to ask the questions, and she don't want me to ask her the question.
She has to be able to.
Okay, take your break, Mr.
Take
King.
your break.
Thank you. Let's go live. You ready?
What does he mean take a break?
Who's gonna ask the questions?
I think, did he go to break though?
No, he's not going to break. Well, I'll ask the question
This is what
about
you're
go
doing.
back to the pimp and trafficking.
But Casey, you're doing this, and so that's what your audience is seeing. You're doing this, and then you go up, and you're trying to get something in, and you're trying to get something in. Take control of it.
Okay. It's okay. No, it's my fault too. It's all right, Mr. King. You're good. I'm far away from you, so I'm trying to talk
Just
up
have 2
louder.
more questions, and we're gonna close it and wrap everything up. Okay, let's go back in.
Okay.
Bring it in, Sayuri. Going in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to Pass Radio. This is People Against Sex Trafficking with our host, Casey McClure, me, Sayuri Smith, and then Miss Heidi. We have a special guest, Mr. Armand, author Armand King, who is a former pimp, who is on the phone with us. He is the author of a book called Raised in Pimp City.
Excellent.
And he is on the phone right now. And we have been talking to him about different terms that are we just talking about everything about sex trafficking.
Yes.
But we have a guy who is a survivor of this, and we never talk about the trafficker or the pimp, right? We just had a conversation about the difference. We never talk about the person the male who was involved with the situation in the human trafficking thing. Well, that's the term. We just gonna call it hashtag human trafficking, because we know what it is. It's whatever it is. Well, it depends on where you're from. And so we have been talking to somebody who can give us a whole different perspective on this. And we just really, really appreciate you for joining us all the way from California, talking to us live on the radio. Yes. So Heidi, were you going to ask him the question?
I was. So the question that I had for you, and it's not even a question, I just wanted you to dive in deeper of the difference. A lot of the different things that you had talked about being a pimp, though, is you still had the code of ethics, and you separated, like, we weren't tricking women. So maybe that's the separation between, like, what's going on with trafficking and pimping, right? Like, you had talked
that's
about,
a good point.
You had talked about, like, hey, we are surviving. We're about to
You're not making them sign a contract.
Like,
you're
gonna hoe out, and I'm gonna be your pimp or whatever. You weren't saying, hey, I'm a modeling agency. Hey, you're gonna be famous. Hey, you're gonna get this signing contract. There was no trickery.
Tell us about that.
Pimping was pimping and hoeing was hoeing.
Give us the scenario. Give us the scenario and the the conversation that was had when two people who were going into business together came together to make a decision to work together in the street.
Right. Like pimping was all about communication. If you couldn't, like, let's say, if master the art of communication, you could not talk from your mouth. And, that's where it kind of blends in. It does with the definition they give us of trafficking, force, fraud, or coercion. That coercion name, where the more and more I got to understand what's happening with that coercion piece, being able to mind manipulate or to talk, persuade, something that CEOs do with businesses and business meetings, is to persuade someone to see things your way, to come about things your way. But it was about mouthpiece. Could you talk? If you could not talk, you did not know trickery, not know fraud. If you could not talk to girl and tell her about your vision, and for the most part, you really did, as this portrait or whatever you were as this pimp, you had this vision. You really did want to succeed. You really did want us to make money. It was the wrong avenue. Yeah. But you really did have these, let's get these cars, let's get these houses, and some of them depend on who the individual was, because it's not one human beings are not duplicates of each other. So everybody's vision might have been slightly different. But if you like, we're going to invest in business, we're going to do this together, you may have had this true vision. And as long as the act was,
right.
This is what you thought. So you were talking someone into a business deal. You work for me, this is the way it happens to work. You
now,
do A,
Armand.
B, and C. I'm going to do A, B, and C. And we're going to build together. And there's been people, although it's never really, it's no matter what, it never leads.
Armand, I hate to I have to cut you off, Armand, because we got only 2 minutes left. And my question to you is, what are some of the steps that are most important for a young man to prevent him from going down the path that you once went down? What would you say to a mother and a father that is trying to intervene in this young man's life to keep him away from the trafficking, keep him away from pimping, keep him away from drugs and gang activity, just all of it that leads to destruction? What would you say to that young man today if he was listening?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to tell you, this is not the mid-90s, early 2000s. They will bury you in a prison cell right now. Like, unlike before, where the police will call you by your pimp name, didn't care about pimping at all. You could be caught with 3 girls in your car, they'll let you go as long as you didn't have drugs or guns on you.
Correct.
But nowadays, you're going to jail for 20+ years.
You're right.
That's about as serious. We can go into other things later, but first and foremost, you're getting buried for attempted pimping right now, attempted trafficking. You're going to jail. And
how do you attempt to pimp somebody? How do you attempt?
Yeah.
How do you attempt? Like, how does that case look?
Even just transporting a girl from one location to another, they don't even have to participate in buying or selling. You can go to jail.
Facebook to somebody trying to persuade them to come work for you. You're going to jail for 20 years.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
But you know what's weird is, like, I've seen a lot of traffickers that they're not going to jail for it. So, like, what are they targeting? Are they targeting the wrong people? Like the real traffickers? Like, we're going to turn a blind eye to that when they're using social media?
They always do that. They're building a case. They always take time to build a case.
About criminal injustice.
Yeah.
I couldn't fathom to put my mind around the demonic stuff that's happening.
Correct.
That's out there. Why they pick who they pick. When they get certain individuals in and they start telling on other people, and now that person gets a shorter deal because he gave what they wanted. Or that they just wanted the person to continue. Or that person may have insight on who the tricks were that were buying. Who are oftentimes law enforcement, judges.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And you talked about the buyers, Armand. I want to share, I went into the sex industry at 18 years old because my sister went into it because she was a single mom and we were victims of child molestation. But my grandfather was a buyer. He would buy prostitutes, and he was murdered in 2004 while he was with the prostitute. But she called 911, and I'm thankful that she called 911. She tried to save his life. But of course, looking back, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong things, and he was married to my grandmother, but he was a buyer. And so he would buy prostitutes when he was married to my grandmother. So it's like, how do we control that for the men that feel like it's okay to buy young women or women, no matter what age? Like, how do we change that?
That teaches men from birth that women are sex objects and are worth money. It's never not been okay for that to happen. Women are still fighting for equal rights today. It's been when you're walking through that grocery aisle, you look at that magazine and you got a half naked woman trying to selling something. When you're watching a TV ad and you got a girl in a bikini getting water all on her on a car selling a cheeseburger, has nothing to do with cheeseburger.
That is so right, Armand.
Yeah.
And I just,
so the buyers think it's okay to buy.
that's right. Armand, I thank you for being on the show today and just sharing your heart. And real quick, do you want to give your website so people can find you and reach out to you in the California area or wherever?
Everything for the Armand King, ARMANDKING. I'm not hard to find. Google that name. The organization is Paving Great Futures. We are actively changing human lives daily, men and women, former pimps, current pimps, former prostitutes, current prostitutes, and their children.
Right.
We are wrapping around our community totally. We do not die. We do not differentiate.
Thank you so much, Armand King. And that is the end of our show. And thank you for listening to Past People Against Sex Trafficking on foxtrapradio.com.
Audio out, visual out.
I'm here.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
King.
you, Mr. King. We love you. Appreciate you. We're going to be back in touch with you.
I love you all too, okay?
We're looking forward to
it. You need me on for anything, please just let me know, okay?
Absolutely. We need to get you to Atlanta.
San Diego, California, all right?
All right. We're going to be back in touch because we're going to have some events planned. We want you to come and be a speaker if you're open to that.
Absolutely. Now, I'll be in Houston. I don't know, Houston not too far from Atlanta, but I'll be in Houston in March, that week.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to talk. It'll be a couple months down the road, but we'll get you lined up. Okay. We appreciate your time and supporting survivors.
You guys have a wonderful day. Okay, God bless you all.
God bless you. Same to
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So fast. You know, because he said so many deep conversations to be able to have with him. I'm really like on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
Are we coming back from break?
No.
Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
Bye.